Real quick before the video does begin, I want to give a quick shout out to my new channel. The Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade gacha game that I've been a big fan of is actually getting a global release later this year. So because of that, I went ahead and created a new channel strictly for JJK content. And if you lots of fans of that, want to play the game for yourself, stay up to date on news, and essentially get what you get on this channel but now for JJK, then feel free to hit that subscribe button on both this channel and the other channel. But for those that are wondering, don't worry, this isn't going to affect my BBS channel. We're still going to be double uploading daily when I possibly can, like we usually do. With that said though, enough rambling on, here's our Brave Battle tier list. Alright Landers, so it's about that time for us to update our Brave Battle tier list. The last time we did do one of these was surprisingly over 11 months ago. I can't believe it has been that long. But since we did receive a new Brave Battle meta-defining unit, that being Sergeant, I thought now would be a great time to update our tier list. Especially because our next big update in Brave Souls is going to be based around the Brave Battle game modes. I'm sure the mode itself will play the exact same, but there are going to be potentially better rewards, and the ranking itself is also going to change in how you actually can perform in your independent Brave Battle leagues. Now, with that in mind, what you are seeing today is the new updated Brave Battle list on how I feel reflects the current Brave Battle meta, and the characters you are seeing on your screen are only characters that have been designed at one point in mind, whether it was 5 years ago or recent. They were designed to be used in Brave Battles. Obviously, Bleach Brave Souls does have over like 500, 300 plus characters, but not every one of them is designed for this game mode, right? In the lower leagues, you can basically bring whoever you want to, but in the higher leagues, you're definitely going to want to focus on more of the meta units, and that is how you're going to be consistently winning your games, ranking high, 3rd seat and above, for example. Now, truth be told, a lot of these characters really aren't worth talking about. We'll go over them in categories, and in C tier, we have the bottom of the barrels. Characters that I just don't think are really worth talking about nowadays. Yuha and also Kenpachi at times were like the best characters in this respective meta, but nowadays their damage output, their survivability really doesn't hold up. Yatsu had a potential chance to be revived with her resurrection, but ultimately the biggest problem with Yatsu is that she herself is a captain in a meta where every character has captain killer, and unless you have Yatsu max transcend with a full defense build, it's not going to be looking good if you put her against any recent 2020 plus character. The B tier is going to be characters that are very similar. They have some good things, some bad things, but what you're mainly going to see with these characters here is that they just, again, can't really compete with the characters above. I mean, Brave Battle units are very simple in nature. They are always auto-controlled, and these B tier characters are essentially characters that just do a tad bit more damage when compared to the C tier, but their damage output isn't as good as A tier. Maybe they don't have good utility effects. And likewise, they are also maybe very open targets for some of the better, more relevant units. I do want to make some brief changes. I think maybe you can maybe make a case for each way to move a tad bit. Not really. It's awkward to him in Full Hollow. They did get resurrected and they did pick up new Brave Battle skills, ignore invincibility, etc., prevent last survival, but it really doesn't do much, right? Especially in the case of Ichibei, his resurrection could have actually been good, but the unfortunate thing that we did see with Ichibei is that he always had an Espada killer, and we've only ever had one Espada meta unit, that being this particular Noritora. At one point in time, again, he was the best Brave Battle unit. He countered Yatra Unohana. It was a cycle. It's always new characters countering old ones. But given the only time we had a relevant Espada in the meta was this Noritora, it's meant that this character, Ichibei, has always aged poorly. Because you'll see here, there's no other character in the meta that is an Espada. He's never going to have more damage against a certain character. And at the same time, to be fair, most characters here don't do more damage to Ichibei, given that he is a Squad 0 character, not a captain. But there are a few characters out there that do have Squad 0 killer. Moving into A tier. So these characters are more recent characters that have released in the last year or two. You know, Yama, for example, is a character designed to counter Yugrim and also Tsukishima, which, to be fair, might have seen a tad bit of an increase in terms of their usability. If we quickly jump to those two characters, Yugrim, for example, the main thing is going for him right now is that the best Brave Battle unit that you do see in double S tier is Orihime. She's the best Brave Battle unit in the entire game. So by default, power characters are kind of sought after or better by default because they have attribute advantage against Orihime. It means they can do more damage to her and she's doing less damage to them. Having said that, there's no like really good character that is used as a counter to Orihime. She's easily the most dominant Brave Battle unit in this game. And if you are someone that is using a power unit in this meta, let's say Yugrim and therefore Ishin and also Chad, you are going to want to have duplicates into him, maybe go with a full defense build to withstand all the damage that someone like Orihime can actually dish out. And with that in mind, one power character we are seeing being used quite often is Chad. Now, to be fair, Chad's kind of an awkward character. We'll talk about him when we do get to him officially in the SS tier. He's a really good character to use, but not so much a threat when going against him. I'm not really scared of Chad, like I'm scared of characters like Meninya, Sergeant, and also Orihime, but best believe all of my teams are going to include Chad because he's right now a very valuable unit. Because you are seeing more Chads in the meta, that therefore does mean characters like Tsukishima and also Sergeant technically are better because they are good characters to deal against Chad. Then again, Chad's not really much of a threat, but Tsukishima is invincible, so Chad does no damage to him, and Sergeant, this Safui version, does have a good damage output, Flurry +3, and does more damage to human enemies. So because of that, technically these characters do have a tad bit more usage, but do bear in mind when using these speed characters is that they are speed characters. So characters like Orihime do more damage to them, right? So with the triangle, you're using them to kind of deal with the power characters that you might be seeing a lot, but then likewise, they're going to be very open and easy targets for the best character in the meta, that being an Orihime, a Technique character. Going back into the A tier though, Kurioshiki and also Kenpachi, and to a certain extent this Yamamoto, are just very similar characters. They all go for invincibility. Kurioshiki and also Kenpachi in particular can actually prevent loss to survival. So when you do defeat an enemy, they won't revive. And actually, to be fair, if we look at more so Kurioshiki and also Kenpachi, they're very similar characters. Kurioshiki has the advantage of having a higher damage output and takes less damage under half stamina. Oko is one of those weird characters that's only really good if there are captains in the meta. And he's not really a character you are scared to go against. He's a very easy character. Just don't put a captain against him. He's still the only character designed in this way, where he has a 50% chance to dodge any captain attack. Once he does dodge an attack, because he has the counterattack skill, he's able to deal damage back to the enemy that just attacked him. And then because he has the Brave Battle counter skill, anytime he does get hit, he's also reflecting damage back to the enemy. So no matter what, if you are a captain and you're damaging or missing Oko because he has that 50% chance to dodge, you are taking damage back, which is kind of cool. Oko though is more so a defensive unit, really just there to stall out any captain. And in this case right now, the main captains you are seeing used in Brave Battles is Sergeant and also Yamamoto. And if they are a threat, let's say more so Sergeant, I mean, I guess Oko would be a decent character just to be a stall unit. And that's really about it. Oko's damage output is good, but his main rise to fame to a certain extent is more so his stalling abilities against any captain. But if you're not put against a captain, he's a very easy and open target. I'd say for the most part, A to C tier are just kind of filler units. Units you only put in your team if you have them maybe max transcended, full defense build, and to really compete your team. The best of the best teams though are definitely going to consist of 3 characters in SS tier or S tier, respectively. So let's talk about those individual units. Now, Ishin right now has always been a weird unit for Brave Battles because he's always just kind of been outside of the meta. What we do usually see when characters come out in the Brave Battle meta is that they're designed to counter the previous best unit. And Ishin released outside of an anniversary, outside of an end of year celebration, which is usually when we do receive Brave Battle units. He kind of just came out, was invincible, prevented last stage survival, ignored invincibility. He wasn't really countering any character. He kind of just fit right in nicely in an invincible resurgence to a certain extent. He has a good damage out, but he has all the utility skills you want. And right now in this current meta, he is a power unit. So he is taking less damage against someone like Orihime, is doing more damage against Orihime. And he himself is a sniper. He's not a captain. He doesn't have any second affiliation, so no one in this meta right now does more damage to someone like Ishin. Meanwhile, because he has a Super Killer, he's doing more damage, 20% more damage to any Sniper in this meta, which right now consists of Yamamoto and also Sergeant. So I guess in conclusion, Ishin makes us for an overall 3rd good unit in any particular Brave Battle team. Definitely can be a threat if you build him properly. Let's say, for example, you have him max transcended, full defense build. Yeah, he can be quite a threat and can be definitely a good character to use against someone like Orihime. Maybe even other captains in this meta like Yamamoto and even Sergeant. But the reason why he is at the bottom of S tier is just because simply put, he's not designed to counter anyone. He's kind of just there, but he's an overall good unit. When it comes to Yamamoto and also Yuha, they're very similar characters, and they're 2 characters that have both been hurt by this new introduction of 1000 Year Battle Sergeant. The thing that Yuha had going for him that made him the best Brave Battle unit was how good his damage output was. Flurry +2, gets more no-attack damage output the more enemies or allies that are defeated, and he makes for a very good last stand unit. However, what we have been seeing is that you really can't benefit from that nowadays. Mainly because we have 3 new units that have the persistence skill. Now, the persistence skill is that when you are defeated, when you are killed, you're basically left on 1 HP for 5 more seconds. You're invincible for 5 more seconds. And there's no way around this besides just outliving that persistence unit. And that's what ultimately makes Menina, Sajin, and also Orihime the best Brave Bat units in the game is because they have that very high damage output, they have that survivability and tankiness to them, but then they also have that 5-second invincibility once their HP does go down to 0. So because of that, you're not really able to get the high damage output that comes with Yuha being the last man standing, because there are 3 characters in this meta that refuse to die, and due to that, likely Yuha is going to die before Sajin, Menina, and also Orihime are defeated. At the same time, post Yuha's release, what we have been seeing is that nowadays we're more so seeing characters have high damage output right from the get-go, or for the entire quest, and not more so have it right at the end when the character is maybe the last one standing. Additionally though, one great thing about Yuha was his team boost, because he had the high damage output, he had that good survivability, he had paralysis, which unfortunately most new characters nowadays are immune to, but he also had the team boost, boosting your team's attack, focus, and defense by 43%. That gave your team the stat advantage. If the opponent's team didn't have a team booster, likely you were going to win because you just overall got more stats. Of course though, that went ahead and changed though, because someone like Yamamoto then released, who was a direct counter to the current captain meta, any captain in the meta, but also of course Yuha Bak. In Yamamoto's case, he's the only character in the game to have this, where he's guaranteed to inflict lacerate and burn against a heart no affiliation unit. And what this meant is that one, you were doing DOT, damage over time, from the burn and lacerate, but it would stop Yuha from using a team boost. And in a way, if you had Yuha in your team and then you had Yama in your team as well, you could get your team boost off and potentially stop them from getting a team boost off, because the idea was that you would kill Yuha before the lacerate does wear off. The advantage Yamamoto has over Yuha is that one, he also does have invincibility. So during the Yuha meta, especially during the time when we had characters like Kuriyasuki and also Kenpachi running amok, me and many others would just use SP characters to one-shot them because they just weren't invincible. Unfortunately, you can't really do that nowadays because we now have more characters with the invincibility skill, Ishin, Yamamoto, and then also, of course, these 3 persistence units. But Yamamoto is also a very similar character, gets stronger the more the match goes on. You know, base damage, he has Flyer +2. For the first 10 seconds, though, he has Flyer +3. And then every enemy or ally that is defeated, he gets 20% more normal attack damage. Overall, good unit. Again, still gets stronger like you are as the game does go on. And Yama is still able to do some really good damage. But unfortunately, none of these characters below can really compete with the new persistence characters. Because again, you just get that invincibility. By the time that 5-second invincibility of persistence does wear off, Yama, Yuha, and every other character is likely to be defeated. But that then takes us into the SS tier, which right now, these are easily the 4 best units. Which is quite wild to say, because Chad, let's talk about Chad. He's been a character I've been glazing the last month, but Chad has had an absolutely amazing comeback, mainly due to the fact he is a power character, but right now he just works in most teams thanks to Sajin. So realistically, if you are looking at this tier list, there does need to be context, right? Chad is only SS tier if you have Sajin in your team. If you don't have Sajin in your team, Chad is probably like A tier, B tier even. He's just an overall okay unit. He's never really been like that amazing. And ultimately the reason for that is because he himself does not have invincibility. He doesn't go through invincibility. But despite that, the reason why he is right now one of the best units in the game is because, again, Sajin, if we quickly talk about him, he has a new skill where he negates or disables team boosts and debuffs from going off if the enemy is a mind or a heart character. So that's why someone like Yuha and also Yamamoto have taken a hit, and why Sajin is an overall great unit, because he does more damage to Yamamoto, he has attribute advantage against Yuha, and because he has the persistence skill, he's guaranteed to win in a fight against Yuha and also Yamamoto, but he's also stopping them from getting a team boost or team buff off. So right now in this current meta, if you are trying to get a stat advantage by using a team booster, the only way you can do that is by using a non-heart or mind unit. And by default, Chad is that best option. Especially because he is a power character, where the best character in the game right now in this meta is a technique character. The stars just perfectly align. He has attribute advantage against the best character in the meta, so you can build him to be quite tanky. A defense survivability build is definitely what you want to do with this Chad. You're not building him to be a DPS character. In fact, when he's on the enemy team, he's not even really that much of a threat. You're really only using him to get the team boost off, and from my experience, the way his strong attacks do work, he always gets a team boost off after Orihime, because Orihime is a character you're likely to see in every team, and she has a debuff. Now, the way debuffs and boosts do work, whatever is used second is the one that is applied. If I'm debuffed and then boost, I remove the debuff, and now my stats are boosted. Likewise, if I'm boosted and I then get debuffed, where now I've lost the boost effect, and now my stats have been lowered by 33%. In majority of my games, the way the AI does work is that Aaroniero will use a debuff first, and Chad will use his boost second. So because of that, I'm able to get a 43% attack, focus, and defense increase, and negate the enemy Aaronioro's debuff effects. And then likewise, if I have Aaroniero in my team, I'm able to lower their stats by 33%. And then if I'm using someone like Sajin, right now this is the best break battle team in my opinion, as long as I'm not going against a Chad, there is no way for their team to get a team boost. There are some times where maybe they will negate my team boost and actually debuff me, but then at that point we're kind of just on even playing field. No one has the stat advantage, and it then comes down to raw stats who has the better team. But a team with Sajin, Chad, and also Aaroniero, it's able to beat teams that are max transcended because you're debuffing them, you're lowering their stats, and then you're buffing your stats. So when talking about Chad, we have to talk about Sajin because they only work together. Chad is not nearly as good if you don't have Sajin, because then you have no way to stop the opponent's team from using buffs and also debuffs, assuming they have Yamamoto and also Yuha in their team. But yeah, Chad overall, SS tier right now if you have Sajin, team booster, power unit, good defensive unit, against someone like Aaroniero, who right now is in mostly every single team. In third place for SS tier, we haven't really spoken about it just yet, we have Menina. Now, ultimately, Menina is kind of just a weird one. Like, she's just an overall good DPS character, good defensive abilities, and also, of course, has persistence. She doesn't do anything special. Her Soul Bomb was a unique thing about her, where if you do use your Soul Bomb, you do apply an 80% debuff, which pretty much guarantees you the win. But as we see with Sajin, for example, Sajin could just negate that debuff effect. Menina, given the fact that she does have the persistence skill, she has a good damage output, she's a stun ritter with Captain Killer. Most characters don't have Killer against her, but she has Killer against a lot of good characters, Sajin and also Yamamoto, for example, and any other captain in A tier and below. It means that more often than not, she is going to win any fight against any character she gets put against other than, you know, Sajin and also Aaroniero. Sajin does have the advantage against Menina, given that he does have Killer against her too. Then again, they both have Killer against each other. Likely, if you put Menina against Sajin or Sajin against Menina, vice versa, they're both killing each other. By the time one of them wins, both of them would have activated persistence, and the persistence would likely wear off in a second or two, and they would then end up getting defeated as they run to the next opponent. So they're very similar units, but the advantage that Sajin does have on the meta is that he has that negating debuff and boost effects, which has a wide effect against multiple characters, and again, it has made a rise with Chad being used in break battles. That then takes us to Aaroniero, right? Why is she right now the best break battle unit? Well, simply put, they haven't made a character to counter her. If we're looking at natural counters, right? Chad is countered by any speed unit. Tsukishima, this particular Sajin. This Yuha released to counter the current captain meta that at the time was Kuriyashiki, Kenpachi, and also, you know, Yamamoto. And then this Yamamoto came out to counter Yuha, negated his debuff by inflicting lacerate, did more damage than Yuha right from the get-go, but also likewise got stronger the longer the game did go on. Then Menina releases, right? She has an equally or higher damage output than Yamamoto, but because she has persistence, she's always going to win her fight against Yamamoto. Likewise with Sajin. Again, like I mentioned, they kind of count each other out. They're both like equally as strong. They both have persistence. Sajin technically is a counter to Menina, right? When I put my Sajin against Menina, I know Sajin's going to win the fight and maybe do extra damage to the next opponent, if you can actually survive it. But right now, Aaroniero, there's no character that hard counters her. Especially right now where Sajin is negating buffs and debuffs from Heart and Mind characters, there's no one stopping a technique character like Aaroniero from getting a debuff off. So she has a very high damage output, thanks to her Fly +3. She has all the skills you want, right? She ignores Brave Battle invincibility. She's invincible for the first 10 seconds. Under half stamina, she takes 50% less damage. She has the persistence. She gets stronger under half stamina too, as she then does pick up 50% more normal attack damage like Sajin, for example. And she's also a range character. Now, for the better half of like 6-7 years in Brave Souls, range characters were considered terrible in Brave Battles. But Aaroniero just works. By the time any character like Sajin or Menina or any character ready to get close to her, she's already gotten a lot of hits in. When put against Sajin or Menina, even if no boost or debuff is activated, she's always going to have the advantage because she's likely going to inflict or kickstart the persistence on Menina and Sajin a lot faster than they are able to do it against Aaroniero. She's also right now a character that has Captain Killer. She's a human, so right now no one has Killer against her. And it kind of says a lot, where like your best option for Aaroniero is a 1000-year battle Chad, who can't really even do damage to Aaroniero for the first 10 seconds. He's just there to stall. There's no true counter to Aaroniero right now besides stalling her out and trying to give your team a stat advantage, assuming you have a team booster and they don't. Or hope you have a better Orihime at max transcendence. So right now, Orihime is easily the best unit in the entire Brave Battle meta, although not for long. I definitely do think at the end of the year, or whenever we get our next Brave Battle unit, they are going to be a power character. It's almost guaranteed. Chances are we are going to get a very similar character to Sergeant, where we're going to get a Brave Battle unit, maybe have a team boost themselves, but also negate buffs and debuffs from maybe technique characters. So that way, wherever this future character is going to be, they're going to have attribute advantage, likely going to have killer, likely going to negate her debuff, and likely themselves going to have a boost for their own team. So yes, Orihime is absolutely dominant right now in the meta, but probably not for long. Having said that, when that potential new character does come out, Orihime would likely always be a second side piece, because that's usually what we do see, right? Whenever we do get someone that counters an old best Brave Battle unit and then they become the best Brave Battle unit, well, those two characters become best friends. I mean, when, Yamamoto countered Yuha, it didn't mean you stopped seeing Yuha in the meta. It just meant that you were now seeing Yamamoto and Yuha together in the same team. Likewise with Meninya countering Yama, you saw both of them in the same team. Sergeant counters Meninya, but now you see both in the same team. And that's usually how it does go. So yes, we're probably going to get a broken Brave Battle character in like 4 months time for the end of the year. And they're likely to counter Orihime because at this point in time, by the time that character does come out, Orihime would have been without a doubt the best and most dominant Brave Battle unit for an entire year straight. Because she came out at the end of the year for last year, leading into 2024. So leading into 2025, we're definitely going to get that counter. But like I said, likely Orihime is going to work right alongside them. So with that said, that is my Brave Battle tier list for this current year, I guess, 2024. By the time we next update, this will be for the next Brave Battle unit, and that'll likely be at the start of 2025. I guess I don't need to update it when that new Brave Battle unit comes out, because again, we can probably just predict that they're going to be the next best thing. I'd be very curious to see if they're negating abilities for debuffs and also buffs are to technique, power, and also speed characters, because then that would likely mean the best Brave Battle team is going to be that new power unit, Sergeant, and also Orihime. But either way, I might have rambled on long enough. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys next time. Take care, and peace.